Very good evening to all of you. I hope all are well. Today topic is day 2 of the charge of the GST, and basically if I say the topic is composition levy. Composition levy means it is an alternative scheme for taking registration. If your aggregate turnover exceed threshold limit, you have to take registration, in which you have the option to go for the composition levy. Now, basically we are going to discuss section 10. When the GST was introduced, then the composition was very limited, and that is applicable to only for goods except one service. Requesting everyone to quickly tell me what was the name of the service which is allowed in the composition levy when the GST was introduced. I'm not talking about currently, because currently its scope has been enlarged. I'm talking about when the GST was introduced, which service are permitted under composition levy. Then it was 1 July 2017, there would be one possibility. Then slight changes has been made from 1 Feb 2019 that we will discuss. After that, the Finance Act, after that, section 2 subsection 2A has been introduced. So the scope has been enlarged. Now you tell me all are correct. All are correct that restaurant was the service which was permitted in the composition levy when the GST was introduced. Now, then on 1st Feb 2019, they were allowed certain amount of the any other services. So initially, if you are the trader, you can opt for composition scheme. If you are the manufacturer of the goods, you can opt for the composition scheme. And third is, if you are the restaurant, then you can opt for the composition scheme. On 1st Feb 2019, they were saying in the 3 categories of the supply, you can also provide any service. You can also provide any service, but a small amount. How much amount? 10% of the turnover or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. By this amendment, we can say that like trader of the goods, manufacturer of the goods, they can also provide the AMC services like that. They can also provide like transportation services, because they have to deliver the goods. They have to provide the repair services. So certain components were permitted initially. And then from 1st April 2019, they've issued the notification, and later on subsection 2A was inserted. You can provide any service. You can provide any service in 10(2)A. But again, they have put certain limitation that maximum amount can be 50 lakh. Aggregate turnover can be 50 lakh. So likewise, we will discuss each and every aspect of composition scheme. And in the last, we will discuss one circular, which is basically GST on airport levies. We will discuss one circular that is basically on airport levies. Now, section 10, subsection 1, it says that notwithstanding anything contained to the contrary in this act, but subject to the provision of 9 subsection 3 and 9 subsection 4. These two sections pertain to reverse charge mechanism in the GST. Correct? Whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year did not exceed 50 lakh rupees. So the day one, when the GST was introduced, they have given the limit of aggregate turnover as 50 lakh. Further, they have issued the notification and enhanced the limit. Can anybody tell me what is the current threshold limit of composition levy? What is the current threshold limit of composition levy? And also tell me whether it is upper limit or is it lower limit? Whether it is upper limit or it is lower limit. Very good evening to all of you. So my question is that if you have composition levy, then we are talking about that initially it was 50 lakh, but now the limit has been enhanced. How much is the limit? Second question, is it that upper limit or is it lower limit? Correct. So the upper limit, it is upper limit and the limit is 1.5 crore, and in case of the special category state, it is 75 lakhs. Limit is 1.5 CR, but in case of the special category state, it is 75 lakh. Fine. When I talk about aggregate turnover, we all know that aggregate turnover means pan India turnover. We have to add every sale from every state. Then consolidated amount is the aggregate turnover. It means, what is the definition of aggregate turnover? Section 2 clause 6. All taxable supplies, all exempted supplies, all export, all interstate supplies, if exceed threshold limit, then you are not eligible to continue in the composition scheme. What is the lower limit? Sir, lower limit is same as, you remember we have read in section 22 subsection 1 or section 24. 22 subsection 1. So not now, we have read in the CA Inter. That 22(1) means limit is 10 lakh, 20 lakh or 40 lakh, whatever the case may be. It means if your turnover exceed that threshold limit, you have to take registration. While opting the registration, you may go for the regular category or you may go for the composition category. But if you are going for composition, there are certain restrictions which you need to comply. Correct? Let me go. First, let me complete section 10. Then we will be able to proceed further because it talks about a lot of things. Now it says that may opt to pay. May means it is an optional scheme. It is not mandatory. If you like to go for regular category, you can go. if you like to go for composition, you may go. In lieu of the tax payable in 9 subsection 1, it means in the regular category. An amount of the tax calculated at such rate as may be prescribed, but not exceeding. It means this limit is, or this rate is maximum rate. What would be the actual rate? That will be prescribed. The actual rate has been prescribed in the rule 7 of the CGST rule, but you tell me that what is the tax rate on trader of the goods? What is the tax rate on manufacturer of the goods? What is the tax rate on restaurant? If I have opted composition scheme, then what could be the tax rate if I am trader of the goods? What could be the tax rate if I am manufacturer of the goods? What could be the tax rate if I am a restaurant? If I have I'm supplying the restaurant under the composition scheme, what would be the tax rate? The maximum tax rate is being given 1%, 2.5%, 0.5%, etc. But actual tax rate कितना notify किया है, कितना prescribe किया है? Kindly tell me. Absolutely correct. For trader of the goods, for manufacturer of the goods, it is 1%. 1% is the total amount. It means 0.5% CGST, 0.5% SGST. For restaurant, it is 2.5 CGST and 2.5 SGST. Meaning thereby that trader, sorry, in case of manufacturer, they were saying 2% initially. Not as per the section 10 subsection 1, for the manufacturer, the upper limit of tax rate, maximum tax rate under composition for manufacturer will be or could be 2%. But as per the rule, earlier initially it was 2 and then finally it was also reduced to 1%. If you are the restaurant service provider, then 2.5% CGST and 2.5% SGST. And then why I am saying it is a restaurant? How I could be understand that it is a restaurant? Person engaged in making the supply referred to in clause B, para 6, schedule 2, food and beverages other than alcoholic liquor for human consumption. In the schedule 2, we have discussed that schedule 2, para 6, clause B. What about the clause A? It is talking about the works contract, and clause B is talking about the food and beverages. Para 6 is for both the supply of service. So there are two transactions, both are supply of the service. 0.5% of the turnover in the state or UT in case of the other supplier. So that will be the trader of the goods and the rate is half. It means half plus half, 1%. Subject to such condition and restriction as may be prescribed. Meaning thereby there would be certain condition, there would be certain restriction which will be prescribed. So we have to see the condition and the restriction. Proviso says that government by notification increase the said limit of the 50 lakh rupees to such higher amount, but एक second, to such higher amount not exceeding 1 crore 50 lakh rupees. It means the maximum limit would be 1.50 crore, but they can enhance the limit from 50. So initially the 50 was increased to some other amount, then it was some other amount, then finally it was maximum increased to 1.5 CR, and the special category state were capped as a 75 lakhs. Now the proviso says that a person who opt to pay the tax under clause A or clause B. If the person opt to pay the tax under clause A or clause B or clause C, may supply services other than those referred in schedule 2 para 6 clause B. It means they are saying if you are providing the supply of clause A, clause B or clause C, trader of the goods, manufacturer of the goods or the restaurant, then you can supply the service. Which service? Other than restaurant. But how much is the amount? Not exceeding 10% of the turnover in the state or UT. Not exceeding 10% of the turnover in the state or UT. In the preceding financial year or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. We have already discussed that there is slight relaxation with respect to any service, because suppose I am a manufacturer of air condition. Can I opt for composition? Answer would be yes. I can go for composition. But what happened when I supply the air condition? I probably provide certain AMC services. But the day when I provide the AMC services separately, I could be ineligible from the composition, and that was creating the problem. And as a result, I could not be effectively entitling the composition scheme. So therefore, they have allowed that one can provide the service of this much of the amount. What is the amount? 10% of the turnover in the preceding financial year or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. For the purpose of second proviso. For the purpose of second proviso. What was the first proviso? The limit can be increased. What is the second proviso? That you can provide the service of any amount. It says that the value of exempt supply, the value of the exempt supply, the service provided by way of extending deposit, loan or advances, insofar as the consideration is represented by way of the interest or discount, shall not be taken into account for determining the value of the turnover in the state or UT. It says that for the purpose of second proviso, it means they are saying only for this proviso, 10% or 5 lakh, whichever is higher, the value of the exempt supply by way of interest. So if you recall that interest on long-term loan or advances is an exempt supply the service in serial number 12, in serial number 27 of exemption notification. Now we know that turnover in the state or UT, turnover in the state or UT will also include taxable supplies, will also include exempt supply. Everything would be added, whether it is a taxable, whether it is exempted. But they are saying for the purpose of this proviso, everything would be added. Only exemption by way of interest on long-term loan or advances or discount on long-term loan or advances will not be added. So I can say they have given certain relaxation. They have given certain relaxation. Is it clear till now? Any questions so far? Please tell me. कोई क्वेश्चन है अभी तक? Everything is clear till now. We have completed 10 subsection 1 normal scheme. Now the 10 subsection 2 says that registered person shall be eligible to opt. Now they are saying restriction and condition. So the one restriction and condition is given in section 10 subsection 2, and couple of certain more condition has been given in the rule 5. Some condition has been given in 10 subsection 2. Some more condition we will discuss, restriction we will discuss, which is being given in the rule 5. The registered person shall be eligible to opt the 10(1). It means composition. He is not engaged in the supply of the services. It means save as provided in subsection 1. Whatever he is eligible. Whatever he is eligible. Apart from that, he is not providing any service. So for what he is eligible, the first point I can say, he can provide the restaurant services. Second point I can say, according to the proviso, 10% or 5 lakh, whichever is higher, this much of the amount can be service. He can provide the service of any category. So apart from these two category, whatever it is being provided, that is okay. But apart from that, he should not engage in any other supply. So for example, I am providing the teaching. Can I go for the composition of 10(1)? I'm only provide that teaching. I'm neither doing the goods manufacturing, nor trading, and nor supplying the restaurant. I'm the teacher. Can I go for composition? The answer is no, you can't go for the composition. Why? Because 10 subsection 2 says, that you cannot go, whatever it is provided, that is okay. But apart from that, you cannot make any supply of the services. He is not engaged in making any supply of goods or services which are not leviable to tax. What is the meaning of not leviable to tax? That word has been defined, non-taxable supply. What is the non-taxable supplies? Non-taxable supply means the supply which are not leviable to tax. Supply which are not leviable to tax, that is a non-taxable supplies. He is not engaged in making inter, and that is outward, meaning thereby if I have opted composition scheme, then I cannot make the supply from the outside that state. So in Delhi, if I'm registered, I cannot make the supply outside Delhi. But suppose I have taken the one registration in Delhi and one registration in UP, that is permitted. You can make more than one category of the registration. There is no problem. Only problem that you registered in particular one state, you cannot make IGST supply. You cannot make interstate supply. Then it says, so the word earlier it was only limited to the goods, but services has been, that was added later on. He is not engaged in making the interstate outward supply. It means if I am registered under composition, I can purchase the goods from outside that state. Even I can purchase the goods from outside country also. Only problem with respect to outward interstate. There is no problem in respect to interstate inward supply. He is not engaged in making any supply of services through ECO, who is required to collect the tax at source under section 52. So underline this word. He is not engaged in making any supply of the services through issue who is required to collect the TCS under section 52. Then he is not the, so it means, so if I am making the supply of the goods through ECO, initially that was prohibited category, but finally the Finance Act 23 has made the amendment. Finance Act 23 has made the amendment, and by which it is being said that you cannot make the, you can make the supply of the goods, that is okay. But services initially was permitted, but at a later stage it was added. It means, what is the situation? If you are making the supply of the goods through ECO, can you register in the composition levy? Answer is yes, no problem. If you are making the supply of the services, can you make the supply through, let's say like Zomato, Swiggy? Answer would be no. Any services, if you can say Urban Clap, you can say whatever. If I am registered under composition scheme, then I cannot make the supply interstate. I cannot make the supply through ECO. He is not the manufacturer of the goods as may be notified. So, is there any restriction? Answer is yes. For which categories of the goods? We will discuss. But only point that problem is only for the manufacturing. Pan masala, ice cream, tobacco. We will discuss that. Bricks related certain supplies. That if you are manufacturing of that item, then problem. Can I do the trading? No problem. Suppose if I'm doing the trading of pan masala and I opted composition, no problem. What is the problem? Problem is in the manufacturing of that goods. Which goods? That will be notified. Like pan masala, tobacco, ice cream, aerated water. We will discuss all the goods which has been added by way of under the restriction category. Then he is neither casual taxable person nor a NRTP. In short, I'm using the word NRTP and CTP. CTP means casual taxable person. NRTP means non-resident taxable person. Now the proviso says that more than one registered person are having the same permanent account number, provided that more than one registered person are having the same PAN number, then the person shall not be eligible to opt the scheme under subsection 1 unless all registered person opt to pay the tax under that subsection. It means, suppose XYZ Limited is registered in Delhi, is registered in Punjab, is registered in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and they are registered in Delhi regular category, they are registered in Punjab under regular category, but they like to go only for Maharashtra, they like to go for composition. The proviso to 10 subsection 2 says, if you have more than one registration, then you cannot opt a different scheme. You can go for composition only when all the GST number under that PAN will be opting 10 subsection 1 are opting composition, then only that is valid, otherwise it is not valid. So we have discussed the restriction. So now we are moving to the 10 subsection 2A. Now we are moving to the 10 subsection 2A. Subsection 2A was not there in beginning. Why it is being added? So it is also being found that suppose you are not providing the supply of the restaurant services, then you were not allowed to go for the composition scheme at all. If I am other than restaurant, then can I go for composition? Answer is no. In the 10 subsection 1, it is clear that only 3 persons are allowed to go for composition. Trader of the goods, manufacturer of the goods, and the third is restaurant. What about other category? Not allowed. So they have allowed initially through notification number 2 by 2019, and then finally they have added the section. They have added the subsection in the main section. What is the 10 subsection 2A? Main theme that if you are not eligible in 10.1, then you can go for 10.2A. Meaning thereby, you cannot go under both 10.1 and 10.2A at the same time. You cannot go under both 10.1 and 10.2A under the same time. Notwithstanding anything contained to the contrary in this act, but subject to the provision of 9.3 and 9.4, a registered person not eligible to opt to pay the tax under subsection 1 and subsection 2, whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year did not exceed 50 lakh rupees. Same language, may opt to pay the tax in lieu of 9.1. So other than going for 9.1, as an amount of that by him under subsection 9 may opt to pay the tax in lieu of 9.1, an amount of the tax will be calculated at such rate as may be prescribed but not exceeding. What is the rate not exceeding? 3%. It means 3%. We are reading the provision of CGST Act. So equal amount of SGST would be added. Equal amount of the SGST would be added. Na? So 3 plus 3 would be 6%. Okay. At such rate as may be prescribed but not exceeding 3% of turnover in the state or UT if he is not. Now, the further they are saying certain restriction, and all the restriction are same which we have discussed in 10.2. What is the restriction? You cannot make any supply the goods or services which are not leviable to tax. It means you cannot make the supply of non-taxable supplies. You cannot make the supply interstate outward supply. Engage in making the supply the service through ECO who is required to collect the TCS under section 52. It means you cannot make the supply through e-commerce operator. The manufacturer of the goods as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of the council. Please note one thing, 10.2A is not only for goods, not only for services. 10.2A is not only for services. It can be goods, it can be services, no problem. The only point, the tax rate would be very higher. So in the 10.1 for goods, what is the rate? 1%. But in the 10.2A, what is the rate? 6%. Same, you should not be the manufacturing the goods or services as may be notified by the government on the recommendation of the council. A casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person. Same proviso that if you have more than one registration in the same PAN, then all the registration should be under the same category. If you are going for the composition, then you are not eligible to opt unless all registration should pay the tax under this subsection. It means they are paying the tax under 10 subsection 2A. Almost same. The option availed by a registered person under subsection 1 or subsection 2A, as the case may be, shall lapse with effect from the day on which aggregate turnover during the financial year exceed the limit specified in 1 or 2A, as the case may be. What is the upper limit? What is the upper limit in 10.2A? What is the upper limit in 10.2A? Did not exceed 50 lakhs. So in the 10 subsection 2A, the limit is still 50 lakhs only. The limit has not been extended. In the 10 2A, two main points which you should remember: the rate of the taxes is 6% and the rate of the taxes is 6% and the upper limit is 50 lakhs. The option to pay the tax under this 10.1 or 10.2A shall lapse with effect from day. They are not saying from next quarter, from next year. No, they are saying immediately from the next day on which aggregate turnover exceed the limit. So we have discussed 1.5 crore. We have discussed 75 lakhs and we have discussed 50 lakhs. So the day when it is exceed, from that day itself, you will be ineligible from the composition and you will be ineligible from the composition and you can go for the, you are compulsory required to be go to the regular category. This option of 10.1 or 10.2A will be lapsed from the day when the turnover exceed the threshold limit. Then a taxable person to whom the provision of 10.1 and 10.2A apply, then cannot collect the tax from the recipient nor shall be entitled to take the ITC. So both, neither I can collect from the customer nor whatever the tax I have paid, I can take the ITC. So both restriction, collection of the tax is also not permissible and ITC is also not permissible. If the proper officer has reason to believe that a taxable person has paid the taxes under 10 subsection 1 or 10 subsection 2A, as the case may be. If the proper officer has reason to believe that a taxable person has paid the taxes in 10.1 or 10.2A, as the case may be, despite not being eligible, it means he was not eligible. Why he is not eligible? Might be he is making the interstate supply. Might be he is making the supply of the, or manufacturing the goods which is being restriction category. Might be he is making the supply through e-commerce operator. There are multiple restrictions and because of any restriction, he is not eligible. And that officer has reason to believe. Then that person who is taken the registration under composition shall, in addition to any tax that may be payable by him under any provision of the act, so that is actual tax rate, be liable to pay the penalty, and provision of section 73 and 74 shall mutatis mundis apply for determination of the tax and penalty. So section 73 and section 74, these are the two main sections. See, whenever the officer, whenever the GST department is proceeding, whenever the department is initiating the process of any assessment or any audit or any scrutiny, then they are deciding the tax, they are determining the tax, interest and penalty which is to be leviable on a particular person or taxable person or registered person. So you will discuss in detail in the respective chapter that either under section 73 or under section 74. What is the difference? In the 73, non-malified case, non-fraud case, it means mistake was there, sir, but that mistake was non-intentionally. It was mistake, only mistake happened. So, but 74, the mistake with malified intention. So the penalty component would be, the penalty percentage would be much higher in the 74 compared to 73. So that we will discuss in the penalty chapter. But what is being said in the subsection 5 If one has opted the composition and paying the tax at the rate of 1, 5, or 6, in spite of the fact that is not eligible. Why is not eligible? Multiple reasons we have discussed. 10.1, we have discussed certain category of the supply. 10.2, we have discussed multiple restriction. 10.2a, we have discussed multiple restrictions. Then differential tax plus interest and a penalty that would be payable by that person. Now see explanation 1. For the purpose of computing the aggregate turnover, for the purpose of computing the aggregate turnover of a person for determining his eligibility to pay the tax under this section, the expression aggregate turnover shall include the value of the supply made by such person from first day of April of a financial year up to the date when he become eligible for registration under this act, but shall not include the value of the exempt supply provided by way of extending the deposit loan, etc. It means, see, the point is why they are giving the relaxation of not counting the interest. Why they are giving the relaxation of not counting the interest? Because we know that under the composition, the upper limit is 50, 75 or 1.5 CR. 50 lakh, 75 lakh or 1.5 CR. So if they will add interest, then there might be the possibility the actual supplies of other transaction would be reduced. So I would be less advantage in the making the actual supply of the goods or services. Probably I would have my fixed deposit on which I'm earning the interest. I'm talking about the business ka fixed deposit on which I'm earning the interest. Interest is an exempt supply. Aggregate turnover says all taxable supplies, all exempt supplies to be added. So that 75 lakh, 50 lakh, 1.5 CR would add these supplies also, these exempt supply also. So probably to give the benefit, to the composition dealer, they are saying that we will not include the value of exempt supply. Then they are saying, explanation 2 are saying, for the purpose of determining the tax payable by a person under this section, the expression turnover in the state or UT shall not include the value of the supply which is made by way of the supply from the first day of April up to the date when such person become liable for registration under this act. So prior to taking the registration, whatever the sales he has, that will not be counted, and also the interest income will not be counted. Why they have given the exclusion? What is the reason? We will discuss in some time. Now, let me move one by one to part of analysis. Now, we have already discussed that this scheme is voluntary and optional, not mandatory. Why? Because it is being starting with the word you may opt. Okay. Then I have already explained in detail. Further, this was inserted into a. Now, when the GST was, when the composition scheme was started, then there was only see what is the major advantage. If I will say why one will opt for the composition scheme, you tell me what is the biggest loss. I have already explained. You tell me what is the biggest loss if one has opted the composition. सबसे बड़ा लॉस क्या है अगर किसी ने कंपोजिशन ऑप्ट किया है? What is the biggest loss if one has opted the composition scheme? Sure, I will explain. Mohammad Abdul Rahim, I will explain again 10 to 8. No problem. All are correct. What is the biggest loss? That person who is taken the registration under composition. First, whatever the tax liability is there, 1%, 5% or 6%, that person has to pay from his own pocket. That person he has to pay from his own pocket. It means because he cannot collect the tax from the customer. So whatever the rate is there, that rate has to pay from his own pocket. Second disadvantage, if he purchase from the registered person, then whatever the GST is being charged, he would not be able to take input tax credit. So these are the two major disadvantages of composition. What is the biggest advantage? What is the biggest advantage? The advantage is that there would be the lesser compliances. There would be the lesser compliances. And initially, when the GST was introduced, then they have to file the return. So composition category, they have to file the return, one return per quarter. One return per quarter. It means the total return is 4 plus 1 annual return. So initially it was only 5 returns. What is now? So what is the compliance is applicable to the regular category? So I'm talking about initial days when the GST was introduced. For the regular category, every taxpayer has to file 3 returns per month. It means 36 annually return plus 1. So the total 37 was initially. But later on that has been changed, which we will discuss in the respective chapter. But yes, what is the current requirement with respect to the returns? Composition dealer has to file CMP08. That is not the return. That is the only payment of taxes. Composition dealer has to pay the taxes through CMP08 quarterly basis. Only one return, that is yearly GSTR4. Annual return 9A is made optional for the time being. So it means he has to file only one return, that is GSTR4. But quarterly basis, he has to pay simply tax. That's it. So that is the biggest advantage why one should go for the composition scheme. And there would be the comparatively lesser books of accounts to be kept. Lesser books of accounts ka compliances hota hai. Easy compliances, no elaborate books of accounts to be maintained as per section 35. Simple annual return, quarterly payment of taxes. So that limit was increased from 50 to 1.5 crore by notification, except from a special category state. So Arunachal, Uttarakhand, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura. Then in case of the special category state, so about these 8 special category states are having the limit of 75 lakhs in 8 special category states. And there are total 11. So Assam, Himachal and Jammu and Kashmir will continue to have the threshold, upper threshold limit is 1.5 crore. So I hope this chart is clear. This chart is clear. Please confirm. Any questions so far? So one question that Abdul has asked, that please explain that 10 subsection 2. I will explain. Just wait for a couple of minutes. I will reach and then I will explain definitely. So today we will have the 2 short break. Instead of 1 long break, we will have the 2 short break. So we will resume after 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, 5 or 7, what is the time? 6:50. So we will keep the break of 10 minutes today, 2 short breaks. instead of one long drive. So, Ashok can you please start the break only for 10 minutes? Excellent. So, Abdul has asked one question that's a kindly explain 10 subsection 2A. Let me explain once again from very basic. 10 subsection 2A. The first, why it is being inserted? Why there is a requirement to add 10 to A? Because that 10(1) are basically limited to three category of the transaction: trading of the goods, manufacturing of the goods, and restaurant. So basically, they are allowing only goods completely, and in the services only restaurant. What about the other service provider? There is no composition scheme. So like I told you that if I am a teacher and like to go for composition, can I? Answer is no, you can't. Then they have allowed certain amount of services, which we have discussed, 10% of the preceding turnover or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. Whichever is higher. So that much of the amount was permitted. Perfect. Then, but still, they are allowing only three schemes, three categories of the supplier. Then they have allowed from 1/4/2019, they have allowed to all categories. They can, if they are not eligible in 10(1), suppose I'm a teacher, can I go for 10(1)? Answer is no. Then I can go for 10(2)A. Yes, they have inserted the upper limit 50 lakh rupees. They have specified the rate of the taxes is 3 plus 3, that is 6%. Almost they've specified the restriction or the condition, which is exactly similar to the 10 subsection 1. So it means whatever the restriction is there in 10(1), same restriction are almost there in the 10(2)A. With major two change, that one, if I am not permitted, if I am not eligible under 10(1), then only I can go for 10(2)A. Please note, suppose I'm a teacher and I'm also having the one shop from where I'm making the trade, I'm doing the trading of the goods. I'm a teacher and I am doing the trading of the goods. So the question is, can I trade the goods under 10 subsection 1, pay the tax at the rate of 1%? And for teacher, I can go for 10(2)A and pay the tax at the rate of 6%. The answer is no. You can opt 10(2)A only when you are not eligible in 10(1). So it means if I am a teacher and also service doing the trading of the goods, I am not eligible in 10(1). So then in partiality also I cannot go for 10(1). Completely under 10(2)A, I have to pay 6% whether I am doing the supply of the goods or I am doing the teaching services. Upper limit is 50 lakhs. Abdul, एक बार confirm करना, is it clear? एक बार confirm करना, is it clear? Fine. Is it clear, right? ठीक है, ठीक है बेटा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. अब हम आते हैं वापस aggregate turnover का discussion. Let me go again to the analysis part. Aggregate turnover under composition scheme. along with explanation. Slightly important, so that is the reason we are discussing. Definition of aggregate turnover has been defined in section 2 clause 6. We all know that definition has been given in section 2 clause 6. Aggregate turnover means sum of all outward supplies, taxable, exempted, export, and interstate, but exclude value of inward supply on which the tax is being paid under RCM by the as a recipient. It will not be included in the aggregate turnover. And whatever the tax is, etc., under GST law, that will not be included in the aggregate turnover. Apart from that, everything would be added to calculate the aggregate turnover. It is to be computed on all India basis. Now quickly give me the answer of these two questions. The first question is, there is one pen, and there is one GST number in Delhi and there is one GST number in Haryana. I'm not talking about only composition, otherwise also. If there is a sale, supply between Delhi to Haryana, same pen, but they have the different GST number. GST number 1 and GST number 2. So, will this supply be added in the aggregate turnover? क्या इस सप्लाई को मैं एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में ऐड करूंगा या नहीं? Yes, for everything I have to put together. Absolutely correct. Will I add supply from Delhi to Haryana in the same company? It is only stock transfer. Will I have to add in the aggregate turnover or not? ऐड करना पड़ेगा. Now tell me one thing. In the composition scheme, suppose in the composition scheme, will it also be added in the aggregate turnover? If suppose they are having the registration under the composition scheme, in Delhi they have registered under composition, and in Haryana they have registered under composition. In that also it will be added or not? Please tell me. Delhi is also registered as composition and Haryana has also registered as composition. Now they are transferring the stock from Delhi to Haryana. Will they still need to be added or not required to be added? I like to see the answer. Very tricky questions, but one trick is inbuilt in the question itself. Answer is, if he is the composition dealer. And you remember in the schedule 1 we have discussed, supply by one GST number to the another GST number of the goods, it will be treated as supply. Correct? It will be treated as supply. And aggregate turnover में add करना पड़ेगा. But what is the problem in this case? Right, Amir. Amir Hussain has given the right answer, that if you are supplying the stock from one GST number to another GST number, it will be the interstate. It is a supply, point number 1. It is interstate supply. Can you do under the composition? Can you do the interstate supply under the composition? No, we can't. So in this case, you will become disqualified, ineligible from the composition. You have to go for the regular category. You have to go for the regular category. Now, see this explanation. Explanation 1 to section 10 clarify, for the purpose of computing the aggregate turnover of the registered person for determining the eligibility to pay the tax. So, my turnover should not exceed the upper limit. So, can I go for the composition or not? In that case, aggregate turnover includes value of the supplies from 1st April up to the date of become liable for registration. It means what is my sale from 1st April till the date I am eligible to take a registration. And exclude the value of the exempt supply of the service, which is interest or the discount. Right? Because it is upper limit. On combined reading of aforesaid two provision, the method of computing the aggregate turnover for the purpose of determining the eligibility can be explained while computing the threshold limit of 1.5 CR, 75 lakh or 50 lakhs. Include all taxable supplies, all exempt supply, all export, all interstate. But they are giving the star mark. What is the star mark? That interstate and export. Export is also interstate, correct? Are relevant only while determining the aggregate turnover for the preceding financial year. These values are not relevant for determining the aggregate turnover of the current financial year in which the composition has opted for, as composition is not permitted to make the interstate supply and export in the said financial year. Very, very important. Include having same pen to be computed on all India basis. These also include value of the supplies made by the registered person from 1st April to the date when he become liable for registration under the CGST. Current financial year का turnover हम check कर रहे हैं for deciding the eligibility. Then taxes will not be included. Inward supply on which RCM is payable not be included. Value of the exempt supply provided by way of extending the deposit insofar as the consideration is represented by way of the interest or discount will also not be added. Clear? I hope it is clear now. The rate of the taxes under composition levy, section 10(1) and section 2A, read with rule 7. So we have already discussed. Let me discuss once again. What is the rate of the taxes? So if you are manufacturer of the goods other than notified, which are the notified? Ice cream, pan masala, etc. we will discuss. This fly ash bricks is being added recently, so it is being bold. %. Why they are saying 0.5%? Why not 1%? एक बार मुझे वापस बताओ. Please clarify why they are saying 0.5%. Why they are not saying 1%? Why they are not saying 1%? Very correct. Very correct. Half, because we are reading the provision of CGST rule. We are reading the rule 7 of the CGST rules. So equal amount will be added on account of the SGST rule. So the total would be 1%. So the total would be 1%. So the total would be 1%. In case of the restaurant, it is saying supply, making the supply refer to in clause B of the para 6 of the schedule 2. So that is restaurant. 2.5%. Again, same concept, 2.5% CGST and 2.5% SGST. Now, one important point I like to ask from each one of you. Suppose he is doing the manufacturing of taxable item and he is doing the manufacturing of exempted item. Let's say he is making the turnover of taxable item is 1 crore and is making the turnover of exempted item is 20 lakh. My question to all of you, whether he is required to pay the 1% on 20 lakh also or not. Whether this person required to pay 1% on 20 lakh also or no. So I'm asking silly question again and again so that the possibility of error should not be there in the exam. My point is, in this case, whether this person who is registered, he is doing the manufacturing the goods of taxable item, let's say 1 crore, exempted item 20 lakh. Do he need to pay the tax on 20 lakh also? Meaning thereby, will he pay the tax on 1 crore 20 lakh or only 1 crore? No requirement of the tax on 20 lakhs. So there is a different answer. There is a different answer. Let me go to the definition of turnover in the state or UT. Turnover in the state. I think it is not there. No problem. So what point? It is similar to the definition of aggregate turnover. So are we adding the exempted supply in the calculation of aggregate turnover? Answer is yes. I'm asking normal question. Now this is not with respect to the only composition. Just one question. Are we adding the aggregate exempt supply in the calculation of aggregate turnover? The answer would be yes. We have discussed just now, sir. We have discussed just now that we will add a taxable supply, we will add exempt supply also. Now, definition is almost same. Turnover in the state or UT. It says all taxable supply, all exempt supply, etc. So meaning thereby, if you are using the word turnover in the state or UT, it means you are talking about both taxable portion as well as exempt portion. So what is my answer? If you are manufacturer of the goods or you are restaurant and you are providing taxable supplies, you are also providing exempt supply, you will club total and then pay 1%. It means if you are manufacturer of the goods, you have to pay the tax on 1.20 CR. You have to pay the tax on 20 lakh also. Similarly, If you are a restaurant and you are having the same turnover, then you have to pay the tax on the exempted supply as well, because what is the word is being used? Turnover in the state or UT. And as per the definition, turnover in the state or UT include exempted as well as taxable, both. But the situation is not same when I am talking about trader of the goods. What is the trader of the goods? 0.5% of turnover in the state or UT, but now they are adding certain additional word. What they are saying? Of taxable supplies of the goods and services. They are not saying turnover of the state or UT. No, they are not saying. They are saying turnover of the taxable supplies of the goods and services in the state or UT. They are saying turnover of goods and services in the state or UT. No, turnover of the taxable portion. Now, in this case, we can say if similar situation are for the trader, 1 crore taxable supplies, 20 lakh exempt supplies. In that case, we can say because they are saying only taxable supplies, they need to pay the tax. So therefore, in case of the trader, not required to pay the tax on 20 lakh portion. Is it clear? एक बार confirm करना. Is it clear? एक बार confirm करना. I hope it is clear. Prerna, you are absolutely correct. Prerna Kochar, you are absolutely correct. I think rest all the participant has got the clarity. Let's move further. Student may note that aggregate turnover of the preceding financial year is relevant for the purpose of determining the eligibility to avail composition, but the tax has to be paid in accordance with the applicable rate on the turnover or the turnover of taxable supplies in case of third category in the state or UT. Concept of turnover in the state or UT has been explained subsequently. So there is a further slide in which there is a further discussion of this turnover in the state or UT. Rate of the tax on composition for services, 10(2)(a). What is the rate? Here the rate would be 6%. Again, of the turnover of the supplies of the goods or services in the state or UT, it means on the total amount, including exempted. So the fourth category, what is the fourth? Rather, I should say the 10(2)(a) wala category, in which we can provide any supply the goods, any supply the services, no problem. Only certain manufacturing are prohibited. But in that case, we can say that here also the person who is registered in this 10(2)(a) wala scheme has to pay the tax on the taxable as well as exempt supply. Turnover in the state or UT under composition levy. Read with explanation 2. What is the meaning? As per section 2, subsection 112, turnover in the state or UT means aggregate value of all taxable supplies excluding RCM and exempted supply made within the state or UT by a taxable person, export, interstate, but exclude the CGST, SGST, UT, GST and compensation cess, etc. Now we need to understand explanation. What is the explanation 2? Explanation 2 to the section 10 clarify that for the purpose of determining the tax payable by a person under this section, the expression turnover in the state or UT shall not include the value of the following supply. Which value will not be included? Supplies from 1st April of the financial year up to the date when such person become liable for registration under this act. Because in that case, he is not required to pay the GST. See why they are saying it will not be included? Because he has to pay the tax the date when he has taken the registration. he has to pay the tax the date when he has taken the registration. Then they are saying exempt supply provided by way of extending deposit, loan, or advances insofar it is represented by way of the interest or discount. Now I can say interest is neither being added in the aggregate turnover in the state, aggregate turnover to calculate the eligibility. So I can say the double benefit has been given to this particular interest part. Double benefit has been given. What is the double benefit? First, it will not be included in the calculation of aggregate turnover because it will enhance the upper limit. So they are saying it will be excluded. Second advantage, they are saying you are not required to include in the turnover of the state or UT. Now, if I'm a manufacturer or restaurant, they need to pay the GST on the taxable as well as exempt supply, but they are not required to pay. Even they also not required to pay the tax on interest because interest has been excluded from the value of turnover in the state or UT. So we know that turnover in the state or UT include taxable as well as exempt supply, but which exempt supply will not be added? That is interest or discount. On combined reading, the method of computing, while computing the turnover in the state or UT on which composition has to pay the tax, inclusion means all taxable supplies and exempt supplies made within the state or UT. While computing the turnover in the state other than manufacturer and restaurant eligible for composition, levy of the goods, example trader, the exempt supply will not be taken into the consideration. So only for trader of the goods, the exempt supply will not be added to calculate the payment of tax. Okay. Now, exit, which will not be included. What is the exclusion? GST, RCM inward, value of the current financial year prior to taking the registration. Value of current financial year prior to taking the registration. And last is value of the exempt supply by way of interest or discount. These four parts are being excluded. A photographer Champak has commenced the providing photographer services in Delhi from the April this year. His turnover for various quarters till December is as follows. April to June 20 lakhs, July to September 30 lakhs, and October to December 20 lakhs. So the total aggregate will see. In the given case, since Champak has started the supply of the service in the current financial year, his aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is nil. Consequently, in the current financial year, is eligible for composition scheme for services. He become eligible for the registration when turnover exceed the threshold limit, while registering under GST, he opt for composition scheme for services. Now, for determining his turnover of the state for payment of tax under composition for services, turnover of April to June quarter shall be excluded as the value of the supply from the first day of the April till the date when he become liable for registration are to be excluded. On the next 30 lakh, he shall pay the GST at the rate of 6%. That is 30 lakh ka 6%, 1,80,18. By the end of the July to September quarter, his aggregate turnover reaches 50 lakhs. Very important. Consequently, his option to avail the composition for services shall lapse by end of the quarter, and thereafter is required to pay the tax at the rate of normal percentage. So, कितना बढ़िया क्वेश्चन था. Therefore, the tax payable for October to December quarter, it will not be under composition. It will be under regular category. He has to switch from composition to regular category. He has to pay the actual tax, that is 18% on the 20 lakh. While computing the aggregate turnover for determining the Champak eligibility to pay the tax under composition, value of the supplies from the first day of April up to the date when the such person become liable are included. See, बड़ा वो है confusion है ना. At one place it is saying it is being included. At one place they are saying it is not being included. Which place they are saying included? For determining the eligibility to pay the tax under composition. So, now see this question. In this question, when he has taken the registration, in the current financial year after 20 lakhs, he has taken the registration. It is a very good question, I hope. This question will give the clarity on both the explanation. See, explanation 1 says that the turnover from 1st April to the prior to taking the registration or prior to eligibility, it will be included. And at one place in the second clause, second explanation, it says it will be excluded. Sir, why there is so much confusion? Why they are saying included? Why they are saying excluded? For determining the eligibility. What is the meaning of eligibility? We know that composition dealer can make the supply maximum 1.5 crore, 75 lakhs, 50 lakhs, etc. as the case may be. Now, that would include the turnover prior to taken the registration also, prior to before the eligibility also. So, in this case, he has taken the registration after 20 lakhs. So, when he decided to pay the tax, he has to pay the tax only on 30 lakhs. He will not pay the tax on 20 lakh because prior to the eligibility, but the turnover of the current financial year will not be added as per explanation 2. But now, can we say that he can make the sale of 20 lakh also? Can we say that he can make the sale of 20 lakh also? Because if I will see the turnover, in the composition, he has the turnover of 50 lakhs. Now, the explanation 1 says that for calculating the eligibility or continuing under the eligibility, the turnover would be counted from, or the turnover from 1st April till the eligibility, it will also be added. So it means here the 50 lakh is being crossed. So therefore he cannot continue the 20 lakh as composition category. I hope this example has given the ample clarity on the explanation 1 and explanation 2. Please confirm. Superb example, I can say, which has been drafted by our institute. Absolutely clear. Right, sir. No problem, बेटा. No problem, पूजा. कोई बात नहीं. सर प्लीज एक बार 10 to A कंफर्म कर दो कि उसमें सिर्फ सर्विस आएगी या गुड्स एंड सर्विस बोथ. अब देखो ना, 10 to A में भी they've used the word. In the 10 to A, they have used the word. See, in the tense, see, that question means confusion for multiple participants. Let me repeat again. Going back to the 10 to A, restriction in the 10 to A. See the restriction in 10 to A. They are saying that you should not doing the manufacturing of the goods which are under the notified category. Pan masala, tobacco. Why they are saying 10 to A in the, why they are saying the goods in the 10 to A? It means we can go for goods or services also. If I have obtained the registration under 10 to A, I can supply the goods as well as I can supply the services, no problem. Why I am going under 10-2A? Because you have joined late, no problem. But beta kya hai? Suppose I am the teacher and also I am the shopkeeper. Try to understand. I am a teacher and I am also a shopkeeper. Can I go for 10-1? The answer would be no. Because I can do the trading of the goods, but I cannot supply the service other than restaurant. So I become ineligible. Now they are saying that you are ineligible, you can go for 10-2A. Now, if the 10-2A is only kept for services, even I can't do the business. 10-2A, if it is kept for services only, I can't do the business in the composition. Therefore, they are saying in the 10-2A, you can supply the goods as well as you can supply the services. Let me go to the proviso, the multiple restriction under 10-2A. Give me only 1 minute. Read this particular part. 10-2A, correct? Now they are saying he is not engaged in supply of the goods. It means apart from these not leviable to tax, apart from restriction, I can do the supply of the goods. Which goods I cannot do the supply? So if I am making the supply, the non-taxable supply, non-taxable goods, it means alcoholic liquor for human consumption or petrol, diesel, etc. Again, if you go to the clause D, manufacturing of such goods, meaning thereby, it means only manufacturing of that goods which has been covered in the notification or which has been specified. These are only under restriction category. Apart from that, I can take. So let's say I making the pan masala, then there's a problem. But otherwise, I'm okay. I'm doing the trading of pan masala, no problem at all. ठीक है. I hope it is clear, Pooja. ठीक है ना? ठीक है बेटा. Now let's move further. Chapter is small so that I can kept the speed comparatively slow. I have kept the speed comparatively slow. Very superb example. Must do this example standalone basis also. Now, who are not eligible to opt for composition 10-2A and 10-2? So almost all restrictions are same. So supplier engaged in making the supply the goods or services not leviable to tax, same. Engage in making the supply of goods or services, interstate outward supplies. So here also restricted interstate outward supplies of the goods or services. They are saying person supplying any services through e-commerce operator who is required to collect the TCS at the rate of 50 under section 52. So that is also restricted. Here, please note only services what are being given. Earlier it was goods and services both. What they are saying? What is the meaning of star? एक मिनट दीजिएगा मुझे. What they like to add this particular point. ठीक है. No problem. So, then next is manufacturing of notified goods or supplier of notified services. Okay. So here I can say that this item, ice cream, pan masala, tobacco, aerated water, fly ash bricks, fly ash aggregates, fly ash blocks, etc. has been notified as manufacturing is not permitted. Okay. Supplier who is either casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person, again, he is not allowed. And last is only for 10-1 because supplier of the services is provided in 10-1. It means only restaurant or otherwise which is being given in that one proviso. Okay. That is only permitted. Apart from that, not permitted. There is no restriction on composition supplier to receive the interstate supply of the goods or services. Yes, we have discussed. A person engaged in marginal supply of services other than restaurant are eligible for composition. Let's read. Very interesting discussion. fundamentally, the composition scheme for the goods can be availed in respect of goods and only one services, that is restaurant. However, there are the case where the manufacturer, the trader is also engaged in the services other than restaurant through the percentage of the services, though percentage is very small as compared to the main supply of the goods. There are also some cases where the restaurant provide small percentage of services like delivery. They are also making the delivery for which they are collecting delivery charges. Probably. I'm not saying that it will be considered as goods only because it will be the part of the composite supply, so and so. That I'm not talking about. With a view to enable such taxpayer to avail the benefit of the composition, second proviso permit marginal supply of services. What is that marginal supply of the services? Other than restaurant services. Not supplying alcoholic liquor for human consumption for a specified value along with the value of the goods and services as the case may be. The specified value should not exceed 10% of the turnover in the state or duty or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. Remember, whichever is higher. So we can say that if you registered under composition under 10.1, you can provide any service up to 5 lakh. Up to 5 lakh at least, because they are saying whichever is higher. Thus, it can be inferred that where the turnover of the registered person is up to 50 lakh in the preceding, he can supply the service up to a maximum of 5 lakh in the current year. Further, where the turnover opting for composition is more than 50 lakh and up to 1.5 crore, then accordingly 10% of the turnover, he can provide the service. Now let's read the question. Ram Sevak is engaged in the supply of the goods. His turnover in the preceding financial year is 60 lakhs. Since his aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year does not exceed 1.5 crore, he is eligible for composition scheme for the goods in the current year. Further, in the current year, he can supply the service up to a value not exceeding 10% of this or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. I can say he can provide the service up to 6 lakh. So, he can supply the service up to the value of the 6 lakhs in the current year. If the value of the service supplied exceeds 6 lakhs, he become ineligible from composition of the goods. He has to go for either service category or a regular scheme, depending upon the turnover. Interest income to be excluded for determining the value of the turnover in the state or duty under second proviso of 10.1 explanation to second proviso to section 10 subsection 1. Generally, business tend to save and invest money in the form of the deposit, loan or advances. However, this way they get engaged in the supply of the service by way of extending deposit, loan or advances. A service other than restaurant services, it means suppose I am trader of the goods, but I have deposited the money in my bank account, or I have made the fixed deposit also, or I have given the loan also. Now I am earning the interest and I am also the supplier of the goods. So prima facie, the question comes, will I be eligible in 10.1 or not? See, because in 10.1, which categories are permitted? Trader, manufacturer of the goods, and third is restaurant. But this interest income, which is not the restaurant, correct? That this is other than restaurant. Then the question was, will I be allowed under 10.1 or not? Because 10.1 are giving the allowable service only restaurant. And where the income from such service cause the value the service supplied to exceed the value referred to in second proviso, and said business would have become ineligible for composition for the goods and services. One has to opt out from composition. This can cause a lot of hardship to the small business. In view of the above, an explanation is inserted after second proviso. Clarify that for the purpose of the second proviso to section 10.1, the value of exempt service by way of extending deposit, loan advances insofar the consideration is represented by way of the interest shall not be taken into account for determining the value of the turnover in the state of duty. See, this interest has been excluded in 10% or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. It means this interest ka income will not create ineligibility or will not fall under this restricted amount of the services only. He can provide any value of the interest income. Under the second proviso, a registered person opting for composition other than restaurant value not exceeding, thus the while computing the value of the service as referred in the proviso, interest will not be taken into account. That is okay. Clear, na? The provision relating to the composition are applicable goods as well as services. Okay. Now this rule 5 is additional what I told you, that some restriction are being written under 10 subsection 2, which is applicable for 10.1. Some condition for 10.2a are written in the 10.2a subsection itself. Now, certain condition and the restriction is being imposed by way of rule 5. Some condition and the restriction are being imposed by way of rule 5. What is that? Those condition? Person opting for composition levy has to comply with the following condition. He shall pay the tax under 9.3 or 9.4 on inward supplies of the goods or services above. So, suppose if I am registered under composition levy, then if I receive the service from advocate, I have to pay the tax under RCM. If I have received the services from GTA, I have to pay the tax. Now you tell me, just checking. Again, I can say it is out of syllabus. It is not the question related to the current chapter, but let me ask the question. There is one service, there is one RCM category which is not applicable. There is one RCM category which is not applicable on the composition dealer. Can you tell me? कौन सी एक कैटेगरी ऑफ द ट्रांजेक्शन है कौन सी कैटेगरी एक कैटेगरी ऑफ आरसीएम है जहां पर अगर रिसिपिएंट, इफ द रिसिपिएंट इज कंपोजिशन डीलर, देन इट विल नॉट बी अंडर आरसीएम. कंपोजिशन डीलर इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू पे द टैक्स अंडर आरसीएम. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन. क्या बात है. ओ माय गॉड, सुपर. प्रेरणा कोचर एंड मोहम्मद अब्दुल रहीम, सुपर यार, सुपर. रियली अप्रिशिएटेड. द आंसर इज security services and Pooja as well. I think Pooja, your Pooja, na? Pooja Gazar. Really appreciating the three participants because it is very tricky question. Security services, serial number 14. So even Prerna has given the serial number as well. Super. So under serial number 14 of that RCM notification, that proviso says that security services will not be under RCM if one is government registered for the purpose of TDS and one is this composition dealer. मजा आ गया सच में. वेरी नाइस. बहुत अच्छा मेहनत कर रहे हो बेटा. He is neither a casual taxable person nor a non-resident taxable person. Okay. Now here they are saying he shall mention the composition taxable person not eligible to collect the tax on the supply. So they have to mention on where they have to mention. at the top of the bill of the supply issued by them. He shall mention the word composition taxable person on every notice or signboard displayed at prominent place, so that your customer should be aware that you are composition and you cannot collect the taxage. Further, where the goods held in stock by him are liable to be taxed under reverse charge under section 9 subsection 4. The tax thereon has to be paid under reverse charge under 9 subsection 4 initial days. In addition to the above condition, a registered person opting for composition of goods must not be engaged in the manufacturing of the goods as notified under section 10 subsection 2 clause E during the preceding financial year. The following goods has been notified by this notification: ice cream and other edible ice, whether or not containing cocas, pan masala, tobacco manufactured tobacco substitute, aerated water, 9 4 could be current also, so currently also, ठीक है ना, ऐसा नहीं कि वो सिर्फ पहले 1 जुलाई पर एप्लीकेबल था. Now it is also limited. We all know that 9 4 is limited to the real estate sector. So if it is covered in the current case, then it will be fly as bricks, fly as aggregator, fly as blocks, bricks of the fossil mill, similar siliceous earth, building bricks, earthen or roofing tiles. So these are under the restriction category. Now, rule 3 and rule 4, intimation of opting the composition scheme. So let's take a small break again of 10 minutes. We will resume at not 10 minutes, short break of 5 minutes only. We will resume at 8 o'clock. ठीक है, sharp at 8 o'clock we will meet. अशोक जी 5-7 मिनट का ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर दीजिए. Now we are reading the section intimation of opting for composition levy. Intimation by the person applying for registration. Which registration? Composition. Any person who is not registered and applying for the registration may be given an option to pay the tax under composition in part B of REG01. So what is the part B of REG01? So if I am registered in the, if I like to apply for the registration, then I have to furnish REG01. Okay? Application for registration. REG01 has two parts. REG01 has two parts, part A and part B. What is the part A? So name, PAN number. Okay. Earlier we were giving the email ID and mobile number. Now they are fetching from the income tax database. State, district, etc. So in the part B, once I will complete the part A verified through OTP, then the TRN, temporary reference number, would be generated, TRN. Once the TRN would be received, you have the 15 days to complete the part B. Part B would have the address of the residence, office address, HSN code or SSC code, principal place of the business, additional place of the business, what is the nature of the transaction that you are doing. Likewise. Now, any person who is making the fresh application in the GST regime, I am talking about the GST regime में जो fresh application कर रहा है सिर्फ उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ. When he is making the application, then there is an option in the part B to tick that whether he like to go for composition or not. He need to simply tick. If it is ticked, then it means he is going for composition. The same shall be considered as intimation to pay the tax under composition. Such intimation shall be considered only after the grant of the registration to the applicant. The option to pay the tax shall be effective from which date? From the date on which the registration is effective. Okay. Now they are saying, second, we are reading the rule 3 and rule 4. Okay. They are saying, if a registered person who opt to pay the tax under composition shall electronically file an intimation in the prescribed form, the intimation shall be filed prior to the commencement of the financial year. What is that? Suppose currently I am a registered person, registered under regular category, like under section 9. I like to switch to the composition section 10. It means they are not talking about the new registration. They are talking about you are already registered, but registered not under composition category. But now you like to opt to the composition. Okay. So if you are opting to the composition, switching over to the composition, switch over. It's called opt into the composition. Then he has to furnish the prescribed form. And that is to be prior to the commencement of the financial year. It means you cannot switch to the composition in middle of the financial year. No. Once the because the last date to furnishing this form is the 31st March. The last date to furnish the form is 31st March before start of the financial year. Now, additionally, plus, एक तो ये form fill करना है, which is nothing but the communication to the portal, that I am opting the composition scheme. Additionally, a statement in the prescribed form in accordance with the rule 44, sub rule 4, which we will discuss in the ITC chapter. Within 60 days from the commencement of the relevant financial year. Once year is being started, then I have to furnish this form also. What is that form? which we will discuss in section 18. Section 18, ITC in case of the special circumstances. There's a 18.1 and 18.3, 18.4. We will discuss multiple provision of section 18, wherein what is the form to be filled when you are switching to the composition. Because in that case, whatever the ITC is there, you have to reverse your ITC. So we will discuss ITC 01, ITC 02, ITC 03. These are the form which is to be discussed in the ITC chapter, not now. Any intimation in respect of any place of the business in the state or UT shall be deemed to be the intimation for all place of the business on the same pan. So, see, try to understand. When I am taking the new registration and that registration is under composition, I can go only when all the registration have opted under this scheme. That you remember the proviso which we have discussed. Now link with this particular rule. Once any GST under the PAN has filled this form for switching from regular to the composition, it says that it shall be deemed that intimation in respect of all other place of business. The option to pay the tax under composition shall be effective from which date? From beginning of the financial year. A person applying for registration can opt for the composition at the time of applying for registration. This time being any time of the financial year. Initially, fresh registration, no problem. And the composition will be effective from the date on which the registration is being effective. But if you are opting from regular to the composition, then it can be, intimation has to be submitted before start of the financial year, and the effective date will be the first day of that financial year, next financial year. A registered person can opt for composition from the beginning of any financial year. Composition shall be effective from the beginning of the said financial year. Intimation must be filled prior to the commencement of that financial year that we have discussed. Right. So now can opt for composition at any time during the financial year while applying the registration, person making the fresh application. And this will be effective from the day when the registration is effective. Okay. Registration shall be effective from the date on which the person become liable to be registered, where the application has been submitted within a period of 30 days and where the application has been submitted after expiry of 30 days, then the date on which he is becoming liable for registration, the effective date of the registration will not be the date of the liability, will be the date of granting of the registration. Let me explain once again this point, very, very important. The point is, what is the effective date of registration? What is the effective date of the registration? It has been divided in two parts. The day, so we will discuss, let's say, 1st September, my turnover cross threshold limit, whether it is 20, whether it is 40, whatever the case may be, no problem. Then this is my date of liability, the date when my turnover cross the threshold limit, or I am covered by any of the provision of section 24, I have to take registration. That is clear. Liable to take registration. So this is date of liability. Now, date of application, if it is within 30 days, if the date of the application is within 30 days, so 1st September, within 30 days, it means if the application is made by 30th September, perfectly okay, no problem. Then what happened? Then effective date of the registration would be date of liability It means the effective date of the registration would be 1st September 2000, whatever the 2023, etc. What is the use of effective date of the registration? Again, I can say in the section 18, you will understand the concept, the linking of ITC with the linking of effective date of registration. So just wait for that time. We are going to read that provision also. But only one thing I like to tell you, that if your application is within 30 days, then date of the liability would be the effective date of the registration. And if the date of application is, let's say, 5th of October, then they are saying the date of effective date would be not the date of liability. Effective date would be, what is the effective date? Effective date would be the date of grant of the registration. Let's say in this example, the registration is being granted on, let's say, 8th of October. It's Aadhaar authenticated, so the time limit is, we are not going into the whatever the time limit, 7 days, etc. So the 8th would be the effective date of the registration. What is the use, that we will discuss in the section 18. But simply I can say it will have some impact on the ITC. So what is the problem? If I will apply within 30 days, then date of the liability will become the effective date of the registration. If not 30 days, then date of the granting the certificate will be the effective date. Please note one thing, whether you apply within 30 days, you apply after 30 days, you do not apply at all. In any case, your liability would remain same, that is 1st September always. Your date of liability to pay the taxes would always 1st September. It will not impact on any permutation combination, whether you have applied, whether you have not applied, or applied after 30 days, within 30 days, doesn't matter. What is the impact? It has impact on the ITC, which we will discuss in the section 18. And therefore, we have discussed this concept of effective date of registration. Now, validity. What is the validity of the composition? Withdrawal from the composition scheme by the taxpayer who ceased to be satisfied any of the prescribed conditions. What are the conditions? Interstate outward supply cannot be made. You cannot supply the services through e-commerce operator. Multiple conditions we have discussed. The option exercised by the registered person to pay amount under composition shall remain valid so long as he is satisfied all the conditions mentioned in the relevant section or rules. For instance, the option to pay the tax under composition lapse from the day on which aggregate turnover exceed the specified limit. Okay. So they are saying, for instance, the option to pay the under composition shall lapse from the day on which aggregate turnover exceed the threshold limit. Such person is required to pay the tax under regular scheme, that is 9(1), from the day itself when he ceased to satisfy any of the provision or any of the condition or any of the restriction which is being prescribed in the section or rules. He shall issue the tax invoice for every taxable supplies made thereafter. Further, he is required to file an intimation for withdrawal of the scheme in the prescribed form within 7 days of occurring of that event. What is the effective date for withdrawal from the composition? Effective date from which withdrawal from the composition shall take effect shall be the date indicated by him in the intimation, but such date may not be prior to the commencement of financial year in which such intimation is being filed. Correct. I hope it is clear, right? Withdrawal from composition scheme by the taxpayer who intend to withdraw from the said scheme. The registered person who intend to withdraw from the composition shall, before the date of the such withdrawal, file an application in the prescribed form. So in the last, we have discussed where he has he is not satisfying any of the condition or the restriction. Now, in the second point, in this point we are discussing where he is intentionally withdrawing from the composition scheme. The registered person who intend to withdraw from the composition. So earlier we have discussed switch over from regular to the composition, that is opting to the composition. And now we are talking about reverse situation, opting out from the composition. When you are opting in from regular to the composition, there is last date that is 31st March. But if you are opting out from composition, no last date. It can be on any day. The registered person who intend to withdraw from composition shall, before the date of the such withdrawal, file the application in the prescribed form, that is CMP 04. So there are various forms in the composition CMP 01, 02, 03, 04. That is not part of your syllabus, but just I'm giving the number for your practical understanding. The effective date from the composition shall be the date indicated by him in the application, but such date may not be prior to the commencement of the financial year, before the start of the financial year. Denial of, now third category. First category we have discussed where the restriction has been not satisfied. Second we have discussed where he like to opt out from composition intentionally. He is satisfying the FD condition, but he is like to opt out. Third, we are saying now the specified officer is denying the composition scheme, where the proper officer has reason to believe that registered person was not eligible under the composition or contravened the provision of GST, he may issue a so-cause notice to that person. Which person? Composition person. Upon receipt of the notice, he will give the reply, and once reply is being received, the proper officer shall pass an order either accepting the reply or denying the option to pay the tax under composition scheme from the date of the option or from the date of the event occurring such contravention as the case may be. So the officer will accept the reply, okay, or he will reject the reply and he will deny the composition scheme. In case of the denial of the option to pay the tax under composition levy by the tax authority, the effective date of such denial shall be from the date including retrospective date. It means they can even give the denial from the retrospective date also. Let's say from the last year, last to last year, or from GST when it is being started, or when from the date when you have taken the registration under composition, officer has the power to deny, as may be determined by the tax authority. However, such effective date shall not be prior to the date of contravention of the provision of the Act or the rules. In the above cases, such person may furnish the statement in the prescribed form. Why? See, one thing you need to understand. See, if I am under regular category and now I am going to the composition, will I be eligible to take the ITC or will I be ineligible to take the ITC? Please tell me. Only one simple question I'm asking. Converting from regular to the composition, will I be eligible to take the ITC or will I become ineligible to take the ITC? Answer is because composition cannot take the ITC. So ineligible. So whatever the ITC you have, in your hand, that has to be reversed. Now, whatever the ITC you have in your hand, that has to be reversed. Now, let's say you are converting from composition to the regular. You are opting out from composition to regular. You are opting out from composition and going to the regular category. Whatever the stock you have, you can, and if that stock is the GST paid stock within 12 months, that we will discuss in the section 18 in detail, just giving the brief. So to complete all the linking, if you are converting from composition to the regular category and whatever the stock you have, that is GST paid within 12 months, that has been purchased within 12 months, then you can take the ITC. You can take the ITC because now this stock would be sold at actual tax rate. This stock would be sold at actual tax rate. So if it is GST paid stock, you can take the input tax credit by submitting certain forms. So in the each of the above case, the person may furnish the statement in the prescribed form. For taking the ITC, that will be ITC 01. Correct. For reversing the ITC, there is a form ITC 03. Again, I am repeating, form number, it is not required from exam point of view. Just I am using the word so that, because you are the articleship also. You are having the articleship, so you can correlate with the practical part. When the theory is linked with the practical, it would be remember for a longer period. जब तक थ्योरी को प्रैक्टिकल के साथ लिंक नहीं करेंगे, there may be the chance that it will not be remain in your mind. So now you will furnish the ITC 01 for taking the input tax credit. Why you are taking the ITC? Because the stock which I have in my hand on the date of conversion, now it will be sold with the actual tax rate which is being applicable. So they are saying you can furnish the relevant form containing the stock, raw material, semi-finished or finished goods on the date on which such option is withdrawn or denied. Either you are intentionally withdrawing or it is being denied by the officer. In every case, you are eligible to furnish the statement for taking the ITC within a period of 30 days from the date from which the option is withdrawn or from the date of the order denying that composition. An intimation or application for withdrawal or denial of this option to pay the tax under section 10 in respect of any place of the business shall be deemed to be the for all place. Composition to be adopted uniformly by all the registered person having the same PAN that we have discussed. Let me repeat once again. All registered persons having the same PAN have to opt for composition. If one registered person opts for composition, other become ineligible. One opt for normal, sorry, not composition. See, opting out from normal, opting out from composition and going to the normal, then they will not be eligible. So because all has to be the same color. Composition cannot collect the tax. So the taxable person opting for composition shall not collect the tax from the recipient. It implies that composition cannot issue the tax invoice, cannot enter the credit check. So the taxable person opting for composition shall not be entitled to any credit of GST paid by him, tax paid by him. And imposition of penalty in case of the irregular availment of composition scheme. So if the taxable person has paid under the composition scheme, though he was not eligible, the person would be eligible, he would be liable to the penalty, interest, etc. according to 73 or 74, which we have discussed in detail. Now, the last point which I have to explain, that is one circular of airport levies. That circular I have to explain, and rest everything is being completed. Any question you may ask? Then I will start my quick round of the question answer. So today we can spend the comparatively larger time on the quick round of the question answer. ठीक है? हाँ, ITC chapter में आता है बेटा, because that is section 18. That is section 18 basically. Whatever the part which I have explained, that is nothing but the section 18, and 16, 17, 18 are the part of ITC chapter. ठीक. Now, authority managing the airport, that is called as airport operator. Let's say Airport Authority of India charges the, see, let's say there is one part Airport Authority of India, there is one airline company, that is, let's say, Air India, and there is one passenger, that is Mr. A. Now, as per the rule, whatever the rules are there, the Airport Authority of India has to collect the PSF and UDF charges. These are the charges as per the respective aircraft rules, and these charges would be levied from the embarking passenger. Okay. But Airport Authority of India does not have any direct interaction with the Mr. A, because the ticket, etc., will be issued by the Air India. So what they are doing, when they are raising the invoice, when they are collecting the amount from the embarking passenger, they are also adding the UDF and PSF charges. PSF and UDF charges. Okay. Now the question is whether this PSF and UDF charges which is collected by the Air India, whether tax would be applicable, what is the situation? That has been clarified by the circular. In view of the definition of consideration, in the definition of the consideration under this particular section, PSF and UDF charges charged by the airport authority, airport operator are considered for the providing the service to the passenger. Correct. Therefore, the service provided by airport operator to passenger against consideration are liable to the GST. No doubt about that. This part has been explained. What is the airport operator authority, etc. Generally, an airport licensee appoint an airport operator responsible for overseeing the airport's day-to-day operation and facility management. However, in a smaller airport, the roles of the airport licensee and the airport operator may be fulfilled by the same person. PSF means passenger service fees, which the airport licensee may collect from the embarking passenger at such rate as may be specified by the central government. Airport licensee shall utilize this amount for infra and facilitation of the passenger. UDF is the user development fees which the airport licensee may levy and collect at a major airport at the prescribed rate. Okay. Now, PSF and UDF are levied by the airport operator but are collected by the airline company. I told you. So, Airport Authority of India, airport licensee. Okay. This is the Air India and this is Mr. A. So, who are collecting? The collection is being done by the Air India. The charges are collected by the airline as an agent of passenger and is not a consideration for any service provided by the Air India, by airlines. Okay. Thus, the amount so recovered by airline will be excluded from the value of the supply made by the airline to the passenger. So, whatever they are collecting USF and PDF charges, PSF and UDF charges, so that will not form part of the value, will be excluded. In other words, the airline shall not be liable to pay the GST on these charges, provided the airline satisfied all the condition of pure agent, Rule 33. So that we will discuss in the valuation. Rule 33, I think. This is covered in the valuation. Chapter 6. Sorry. Now, next, the airline should separately indicate the actual amount and GST payable on such by the airport operator in the invoice issued by the airline to its passenger. See, very interesting thing. Let me complete and then I will summarize once again. Okay. The airline shall not take the ITC of the GST payable on the said PSF and UDF charges. The airline would only recover the actual amount and the GST payable by the airline operator. So let's say there is a charges is 1,000 rupees and that GST is, let's say, 5%. Hypothetically, I'm assuming. Okay. So the charges is GST is 50%, 5%. So in that case, what happened? They will collect 1,050. This is not the case that on 1,050, they will again charge the tax. On 1,050, they will not collect again any tax. No, it will be excluded from the value. When it will be excluded from the value, if all the condition of Rule 33 is being satisfied. What is the Rule 33? Valuation rule we will discuss. That is the pure agent. The registered person who are the ultimate recipient of the airport service may take the ITC of the GST paid on the PSF and the UDF on the basis of the pure agent invoice issued by the airlines to them. Registered person who are ultimate recipient of the airport services may take the ITC of the charges on the basis of the pure agent invoice issued by airline to them. The airport operator shall pay the GST on the PSF and UDF collected by them from the passenger through the airline. At the time of issuing the air ticket, same is remitted by the airline to the operator. So now, so they have collected 1050. So they will remit the same to the Airport Authority of India. Since the airport operator are collecting inclusive of tax, there is no question that they are not paying. There is no question of their not paying GST collected by them to the central government. Obviously, they are paying the not central government, government only. They are paying the taxes on them. So let me summarize the discussion. So one is airport licensee. Let's say Airport Authority of India. One is, I'm changing the name. Let's say Indico. Third is Mr. A. In the valuation chapter, you will discuss 15 subsection 2. You will discuss, or probably you can recall also from the inter experience. It says that anything which is being collected from Mr. A, collected from customer, that will be collected from recipient, that will be added in the value. Now, thing is, Indico is collecting the USF, UDF and PSF charges. Sorry, मैं बार-बार interchange कर रहा हूँ. Collecting. So therefore, as per the 52, it will be added in the value. Ideally, it should be added in the value. But now they have explained the Rule 33, pure agent, which talks about that if all the condition of the pure agent is satisfied, then this value which is being incurred by this Indico in the capacity of the pure agent, it will not be added in the value. It means 1050, they will simply collect and they will simply pay to the Airport Authority of India. That's it. They will not collect the tax further. See, 1050 is the bifurcation of 1000 plus 50 GST. इसको GST तो पे करना ही है ना, इस अमाउंट के ऊपर इसको GST तो पे करना ही है, तो Indico will collect that GST also, but again they will not include in the value as per 15.2. ठीक है. Now when Indico has collected from A and then remitted the same, then they are saying that Indico, when he is making the payment to Airport Authority of India, he should not take the ITC, because when you discuss the Rule 33, there are certain conditions that you should not take any benefit. You recover only actual cost. Same has been indicated on the face of the tax invoice, separately. So multiple things we will discuss. But if you satisfied all the condition of Rule 33, then in that case I can say that amount incurred or amount collected in the capacity of the pure agent, amount collected in the capacity of the pure agent, it will not be added in the value. Okay. That if, for example, let's say that Indico is collecting rupees 10 per invoice, 10 per passenger, let's say additional charges because he is providing certain services. So let's say for that he is taking extra rupees 10 per passenger or 100 per passenger. In that case, Indico will raise that tax invoice 100 plus GST. Airport Authority of India will take the ITC. He will pay the same to the government. But we are not talking about PSF, UDF and PSF charges. I hope it is clear. From my side, this chapter is completed. Any question you may ask. Otherwise, we will start the quick round of the question answer. Date, see, for example, so he is, see, then in that case, what happened? The applicability of the returns, filing of the GST returns, annual return, etc., would be made applicable for the last year also. So they are saying you can withdraw, but not prior to the date of financial year. Interest and discount will be excluded from all the category. Interest and discount will be excluded from all the category for the purpose of making the payment of GST under the composition scheme. Any question, please ask. Then we'll start the quick round of the question. And today we will discuss some question of the previous chapter, day one also. Composition, day one also. Is it clear? Prerna, please confirm. Let me share that particular screen also. Explanation 2. For the purpose of determining the tax liability, the turnover in the state or UT shall not include. It means whether you are manufacturer or the trader or the restaurant or that particular 10-2A wala scheme. In all cases, whenever you are calculating the liability, tax liability, you will not include the exempt supply by way of interest or discount. ठीक है. एक बार एयरलाइन वाला समराइज कर दो. इट मींस द थ्री पार्टीज आर देयर. We have discussed that Airport Authority of India, but ticket is being issued by the airline company Indico, and Mr. A is traveling. So they have to collect some amount from this passenger, but they are not having any transaction. So what they are saying, Airport Authority of India are saying to Indico, whenever you are issuing the tax invoice, please add UDF and PSF charges. And whenever you are collecting, please remit the same to me. So they are saying, while adding the amount in the tax invoice by Indico, collecting the amount from Mr. A, it will not be added in the value and he will not charge the GST again on the USF and PDF charges. Only that one. They are giving the reference of Rule 33, which talks about expenditure incurred in the pure agent capacity shall be excluded from the value. Whatever amount collecting from the customer on account of the pure agent, then it will not be included in the value for the purpose of charging the GST. So that this amount will be excluded, and on the balance amount, Indico will raise the tax invoice by charging the appropriate applicable rate of taxes. ठीक है पूजा, is it clear बेटा? So now I can ask any question from the entire chapter, ठीक है? Because we had the day 1 class and also today day 2 class. Please, ready? Please tell me what could be the maximum GST rate? What could be the maximum CGST rate? What could be the maximum CGST rate? Maximum CGST rate कितना हो सकता है as per the provision? I'm not saying what is the actual tax rate. No, I'm saying what could be the maximum upper limit of the tax rate in the GST. Answer is 28%, 18%, 12%, 3%. What could be the maximum tax rate? Answer is 20% because I'm asking the question of CGST. Thank you. Maximum tax rate could be 40, but if I'm asking CGST, then it will be 20. What are the non-taxable supplies? 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 Answer is, what are the non-taxable supplies? Answer is, what are the non-taxable supplies? Answer is, give me the answer, sir. बच्चा लोग आंसर दीजिए. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption and 5 specified petroleum product. बहुत अच्छा. Next is, on which transaction GST will be determined according to the custom, not according to the GST provisions. The which transaction the GST will be calculated, paid at the time of custom, on which transaction. It will not be determined according to the GST. The right answer is, import of goods. Right answer is import of goods. The right answer is import of goods. Now, please tell me, we have discussed that reverse charge is basically 9394. Can you please tell me what is the one major difference between 9 subsection 3 and 9 subsection 4? What is the major difference between 9 subsection 3 and 9 subsection 4? एक मेजर डिफरेंस है 93 और 94 में, क्या है मेजर डिफरेंस? The major difference in 9.3 and 9.4 is that registered and unregistered. Absolutely. In 9.4, the supplier is compulsory has to be unregistered. 9.3, it can be registered as well as it can be unregistered. Correct. Very true. Very true. In case of the GTA, can the GTA opt forward charge? If he's opting, can he opt forward charge? Can the GTA opt forward charge or not? Can GTA opt forward charge? If answer is yes, what is the tax rate? 5% or 12% or any? Can GT opt forward charge? If answer is yes, then also tell me what is the tax rate? 5%, 12% or any tax rate as per the choice of the GTA. If answer is yes, you all have given the answer is yes. Now tell me that if GT opted forward charge, then what could be the GST rate? 5, 12 or any as per the choice of the GT. The answer is, what is the answer? It could be, it could be either 5 or 12 or both as per the choice of the GTA. Now, if GTA provide the service other than 7 specified category, if GTA provide the service other than 7 category, then what would be your answer? Let's say GTA providing the service to a business entity, individual or HUF doing the business below threshold limit, not registered person, not covered in the 7 specified category. So unregistered person, but not covered in the category which we have discussed. What would be your answer? Please remember in the last question, GTA can charge 5% also. GTA can charge 12% also. 5% will be without ITC, 12% will be with ITC. Or if you like to opt both the rate for different transaction, different customer, yes, he can. No problem. Now the question, current question which I have asked, that if GTA making the supply to the person who is not registered but doing the business and not covered in the 7 specified category, what would be your answer? The answer would be exempted. Independent director getting the salary from the company, will RCM be applicable or out of GST? Independent director getting the salary from the company, will it be out of GST or RCM would be applicable? पूजा GTA अगर सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता है अदर देन 7 स्पेसिफाइड कैटेगरी, तो एक सीरियल नंबर पढ़ोगे आप एग्जामिशन में, सीरियल नंबर 21A, which says that service itself would be exempted. No question of tax at all. The answer is if independent director getting the salary from the company, RCM would be applicable. The answer is yes, because independent director cannot be the employee of the company as per the relevant provision of the Companies Act. Now, if the residential dwelling given for the purpose of residence, to whom then RCM would be applicable? If the residential dwelling given to whom, then RCM would be applicable. If residential dwelling given to whom, then renting of residential dwelling given to whom, then RCM would be applicable. Registered, unregistered or both? Registered, unregistered or both? आंसर इज रजिस्टर्ड रिसिपिएंट है तो आरसीएम, अनरजिस्टर्ड है तो एग्जाम। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, in the RCM there are two categories of the transaction. Please tell me in which two category of the RCM transaction the recipient will pay the tax always as IGST. The supply would always be treated as interstate supply. Supply would always be treated as interstate supply. Supply would always be treated as interstate supply. Right. Priority sector lending certificate and security lending scheme. थैंक यू वेरी मच बेटा, बहुत बढ़िया, सभी लोगों ने सही जवाब दिया। नाउ द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज कंपोजिशन डीलर हु इज a trader of the goods, whether he will pay the GST on taxable supplies or taxable as well as exempt supply. Whether he will pay the tax on taxable supplies or he will pay the tax on all supplies. Trader of the goods. Trader of the goods will pay the tax on all supplies or only taxable supplies. Only on taxable supplies. Because the word is being written taxable supplies, or which transaction, which exempt supply will not be covered in any of the category for the purpose of payment of tax. Which exempt supply will not be covered in any of the category of the composition scheme to pay the GST. किस कैटेगरी में कौन सी एग्जेम्प्ट सप्लाई पर किसी भी कैटेगरी में कंपोजिशन डीलर को टैक्स ही नहीं पे करना? आंसर इज इंटरेस्ट और डिस्काउंट। बहुत बढ़िया, वेरी नाइस बच्चा। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज व्हाट इज द अपर थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट इन 10(1) as well as 10(2)(a? What is the upper threshold limit in 10(1) as well as 10(2)(a? What is the upper threshold limit in 10(1) or 10(2)(a? Answer is in 10(1), the upper threshold limit is 1.5 CR or for other state, and for special category state, it is 75 lakhs. But for 10 to 8 is, but for 10 to 8 is, it is 50 lakhs. Now, what is the quantum of services other than restaurant is permissible in 10.1? What is the quantum of services under 10.1? What is the quantum of services other than restaurant which is permissible in 10.1? What is the quantum of services which are permissible in 10.1 itself? Answer is 10% of the preceding turnover, preceding year जो भी turnover है, or 5 lakh, whichever is higher. Correct. Last question. We have discussed that turnover from the start of the financial year till the eligibility for taking the registration, that will, at one place it will not be included, at one place it will be included. Can you just differentiate? Can you just clarify? We had detailed example on this. मैं repeat करता हूं. We have discussed that turnover from the beginning of the financial year till he become eligible to opt the scheme shall be excluded at one place and shall be included at one place. Please tell me where it will be excluded and also tell me where it will be included. This is the last question. For eligibility, it will be included. For calculating the tax, it will be excluded. My God, superb. Very nicely answered by all the participants. For one is saying included to check the eligibility and excluded to compute the tax payment. For eligibility, it is in, for tax payment, it is excluded, included in aggregate. मजा आ गया सच में. Very nice. Thank you so much for your sincere effort and actively participation. I hope you all are enjoying the classes. Thank you very much. Good night to all of you. We'll meet in the next class. And next class would be on Sunday. Next class would be on Sunday 8th evening. Next class would be on Sunday 8th evening. So thank you very much. Good night to all of you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Prerna. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye to all of you. अशोक जी, आज का क्लास कंप्लीट हो गया.